Everything's so impeccable. Hi, it's Simon Barnett from Four Seasons Hotel Jakarta, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with Renee from Where to From Here.
I
Yeah,
remember that I did come for a visit when I came to Jakarta to decide whether I wanted to, be here. And I
yeah.
went to your breakfast room to meet someone, and wow, I mean, it's
It's
really beautiful.
some really beautiful backdrops, and it flows right through the hotel. It's a very
Yes,
design-driven property.
yes, very
Yeah,
Instagrammable.
it is. Yeah. You know what it is like in Asia, but the amount of photos I have seen since I've been here of that lobby staircase, unbelievable.
I know. Well, as we both know, because we both live in Jakarta, one
Yeah.
can actually hire a photographer to follow, your group of friends or a couple throughout the evening, so you get all the right snaps and you can post them on Instagram, and it doesn't cost very much.
I know it happens so often here.
Yes,
The sort of the Ibu lunches, and it's like the camera is this big, and it's like,
yes,
oh, it's a professional.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I was, and
No, it's amazing, and it's quite wonderful, and it's actually fabulous for hospitality, because it means that people can really see what they're getting. And I know from a lot of GMs that often people say, "I want that room, that bath with those
yes,
flowers in it, and the foam that high." Right?
no, we've got to be very careful about how we represent the hotel because exactly to your point, someone will go into one of our suites and say, that's not the flowers. They're not,
Right.
they're not the flowers. I want the.
Picture.
It's just like, okay, it's sort of representing our luxury rather than specifically, literally getting everything that was in that photo.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And look, Simon, how would you define luxury? I mean, you're sitting in one of the most luxurious hotels in Southeast Asia, the Four Seasons in Jakarta.
Yeah.
What's luxury to you?
Luxury is different to everyone, but what I've seen with our guests is that luxury for them is allowing them to have time with their loved ones if the purpose of stay is leisure,
Mhm.
or really trying to connect with the city that they're in. The big trend I've seen, particularly over the last 5 years, is guests when they come to see us, depending on the city that they're in, have bucket list ideas regarding restaurants and attractions. And our concierge were very keyed into those type of establishments and activities.
Mhm.
But more and more, we're getting our teams to focus on really local, so giving our guests an option to say, if you really want a nice local restaurant, you know, this is it, but expect to eat with your hands and roll up your sleeves, so that's a real difference in what I would consider luxury now.
Mm. And tell me, we're both in Jakarta. Why
Yeah.
is the food here so good?
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's just, I've lived in
Absolutely
Kuala
mind
Lumpur.
blowing.
I've just come back
Yeah.
from Bali. The food here
Yeah.
is just another level, whether it's a sandwich or a degustation meal, one extreme to the other. It's all really
It's
good.
it's absolutely right. We've got this saying about mastering your craft, and it's the first thing I thought of when I came here. I think I'm blessed to have probably one of the most talented culinary teams here that I've ever worked with. And I sort of got fascinated about sort of the local sambal and the so many varieties. And just talking to the team, it's because these recipes have been passed down by generation and family, and they're so
Mm.
proud to share that. And I
Yeah.
think it sort of speaks very largely about what you experience here in Indonesia, right? Is that genuine want to share something that's great, and I think that sort of transcends into the food that you see here.
Absolutely. And how many restaurants do you have at the hotel? And just talk us through what you've got.
Yeah, of course. So starting from the top, we've got Alto Restaurant and Bar, which is an Italian restaurant helmed by our chef Marco. Fantastic food. Again, very authentic in regards to sort of a southern Italian style of cooking. He comes from Puglia, so a lot of fresh seafood. So that's amazing. Of course, it has a huge panoramic views of the city. So that's really special. And then Palm Court, which you mentioned, which is what we consider all day dining, but has really quality local fare with some international dishes. So that's again beautiful. And then Nautilus, which is our bar, and we have La Patisserie, which is amazing decorative pastries, which you've probably seen all scattered through Indonesia.
Yeah, no, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And how have you ended up? I mean, you were a former Australian rugby player. How have you ended up at the forefront of the luxury hotel industry?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about how that, I always say it was never a choice. I think I realized that professionally, I wasn't going to make it if I was really, really honest. I mean, very competitive when I was playing, but I always think that these type of experiences when you're growing up generally complement, what you become. And I always worked in hospitality from a very young age, through university. So it's something that I was equally passionate about.
Because you grew up in Melbourne, right? Not far from Lygon Street, I read.
I did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
which, sorry, for those who don't know, is a food mecca of Melbourne, Italian food mecca.
Yeah, that's right. And, probably some of my fondest childhood memories is being taken to Lygon Streets, for family events and birthdays. So, it was that first real taste into that family ethos of genuine hospitality, and something that I have very, very fond memories of course, in what we try to recreate now when we talk about hospitality.
And was concierge your first position in a five-star hotel?
No, I started as a porter, so delivering luggage and bringing up cars.
Wow. And did you ever imagine you would be here in this position?
Not at that time. No, I didn't. It was a genuine love of meeting people. I think, being an Australian, you probably don't have the same level of exposure, say from Europe, where you get to meet different cultures. And at the time I was in Brisbane, so it was probably considered a pretty sleepy city still then, and be able to, spend time, 10, 15 minutes every time someone checked in, showing them the room and understanding the purpose of stay really ignited a passion about people.
Isn't that wonderful? And you must have, you did work as a concierge at one stage, and you've had multiple marketing and sales positions and management. And do they train you in hotels how to deal with that kind of difficult guest?
I think, like anything, if we're trained to listen and be empathetic, and I think that goes a long way. Yes. I think the more you gather with experience, these things become less shocking. Some of the requests I remember when I was sort of 20 years old were just unbelievable to me as a kid growing up in Australia. But you always now, I think, never be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. And tell me, why are there so many luxurious, hotels in Southeast Asia, do you think, and compared to Australia, when there's really very few?
Yeah, it's such a good point. The one thing that's great is, like, when I was in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, really the development that's taking place there. And, on a very personal note, Four Seasons have just announced a major project to be built in Melbourne.
Fantastic. I did not know that. Where is it going to be?
It's going to be on the South Bank, and it's actually going to be one of the tallest buildings in Australasia, and it's going to have the tallest vertical garden in the world. So
fantastic.
Completely focused on wellness and sustainability. It's a huge project. So that's really exciting. And when I was in Sydney, I could see the same, the development towards more luxurious brands.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to purpose of stay in Australia, where there was a lot of business travelers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that also, there was, a rate sensitivity, which is really not in that environment now, which I think will lend itself to further development for luxury product.
Yes.
But, conversely, Southeast Asia, I think the culture runs really well to having luxurious properties that would attract people internationally.
But also, the cost of staff is so much less. The minimum wage in Australia just went up. I know
Completely.
From a lot of my friends who run restaurants, it's becoming very difficult to even afford to run a restaurant there.
Well, the barrier to entry is so high, in Australia. And I think that's when you start running a business, like I did in Sydney, you see that the overhead cost structure is very, very difficult to maintain a really high level of luxury.
Whereas here in Asia, it's quite different, particularly where we're sitting in Indonesia.
Completely right. Yes. And what you see there is, I think, people are geared towards, that emotional connection as well. So people are very willing to try to make sure that people have the best experience they can.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And what are you seeing the changes in luxury guest demands since, things have changed in the world?
Yeah, it's people just have such high expectations because they haven't traveled for so long, which is great.
And they're having such a hard time with the airlines, right? That they're coming off the flights going, give me the best.
Very true. Very, very, very true. So I think the expectation that I've seen is if it's a family holiday, that, if they've got children, that we do an extraordinary job to personalize their stay, because it's been in a lot of cases a number of years before people have been able to get away.
Yes.
And then similar to what we were talking about earlier, really trying to make sure that they have a sense of place through some of the programming that we do, which is a little more local based, museums, art, collaborations with other restaurants and bars that we bring into the hotel.
Oh, that's brilliant. So I know that's definitely what I'm looking for when I'm traveling, the local stuff and also the collaboration. So you don't always have to leave, particularly if you're in a place like we are where there's, can be a lot of traffic.
Absolutely. There can be.
Yeah. And what about wellness? Are you seeing a change in demand for wellness products?
Yes, we are. In fact, the trend, unfortunately, here in Jakarta, as you know, that we've had quite a restriction around our spa facilities and treatments, which we probably have one of the most forefronted spa facilities in Jakarta. So we're really, really excited about being able to open that to its full capacity. But what we've seen is on our retail side is the appetite for our guests to source and use really high-end quality products. So that's a focus for when we open.
So tell us about your spa, Simon, and what products do you use in there?
We actually use a French product called Biologique, and it's really been amazing how that's resonated with people. And I think, back to your point, it really talks to the idea of wellness and the focus people have on. We've also decided that we'll have some programming when the spa opens to integrate some of the amazing spa therapists and yoga instructors from other Four Seasons resorts that we'll be bringing into Jakarta starting the last quarter of this year.
But even the massage therapists, I think Indonesia has some of the best. Again, it's just, they're really into, as you said, serving. And I have someone who comes to my home and it's so affordable and she's just incredible. And she, when my children are here, we all have a massage one after the other. And it's a real luxury of, Southeast Asian life.
It's so true. And, what I've seen, and I've worked in a lot of city properties, the ability of even, the local staff to create almost like a resort type experience. Yes. It's so amazing and calming. We've been doing some, practice sessions. And it's like, I see why people can really get into it.
And it's sort of intuitive for them, isn't it? In a way that, with respect, in the West, it often is not.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's really interesting. And I'm really curious to know, the Four Seasons as a group, are you talking a lot globally at the moment because we're in this new world to find out what's happening in each location? How are you sort of managing it on a global level?
Yeah, so we actually speak very regularly, both regionally and globally. We've got a general managers conference coming up later in the year where we all get together and talk about trends and best practices. We globally are launching a number of initiatives, no plastic by the end of this year across all Four Seasons.
As in the toiletries, or plastic full stop?
Full stop. So we've worked through food and beverage last year, and most of the hotels are implementing their own water bottling plants. Really incredibly important to our customers now in regards to not only menus and sustainability, but also the reduction of plastics.
Such an important thing for the world, isn't it? And people want it.
Very true. And you asked what luxury is. It's, guilt-free travel as well. Being able to have a very luxurious experience and knowing that you're not adversely affecting the world.
Yeah, and particularly the very environment that you've come to. I'm thinking of Bali because I've just been there. as a classic
Agreed.
example.
Yeah. They do a fantastic job there.
They do. But well,
Yeah.
I just think Bali's changed so much. I mean, there's some beautiful Four Seasons properties there, but since the pandemic, it's so clean. And it's a real reminder, there's not a lot of rubbish around. Hotel crews have cleaned up the mangroves in Nusa Dua, the beaches, there's turtles. I just really hope that we've all learnt and it doesn't go back to the state that it was in sort of before this.
Yeah, I think this trend really is here to stay. I think, I'm speaking to a lot of people that have managed to work from home, and there's a real thoughtfulness or time that people have allowed themselves, particularly when, you might have been touched or loved ones have been touched by COVID and the pandemic, to really focus on not only the world in regards to the environment, but people's own well-being.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Simon, when you travel, where do you like to go, and do you seek out luxury?
I do. Yeah, I think like a lot of people, I sort of have a hybrid approach to it. It's my business. So, we were lucky enough, my wife and I, to go to Milan and stay at Four Seasons in November when there was that short window when we were still living in Singapore, and just always such a fantastic experience, not just the Four Seasons, but when you look at the luxury brands in Milan and how they do such a great job of marketing and reaching out to their customer base. So there's always learnings there.
Yes.
But
and Europe's very different, isn't it? The hotels are different, the service is different, the clients are different.
That's absolutely right. But just anything from an hors d'oeuvre you might be served, or the detail in someone's uniform, particularly Milan, using that as an example, everything's so impeccable. So you can learn from that. But as an Australian boy at heart, I'm not wearing a suit on weekends. I like to kick around in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. So, my recent trip to Sydney, of course, very close to the hotel there, and went in to say hi to everyone. But I stayed with some friends in Glebe in their 4x4 meter bedroom, because it's just a lovely spot to be.
Yeah, beautiful. And do you still throw a rugby ball around when you go back?
No, I do not. But I have to say, a couple of my friends and I, we went for a few runs around the harbour, and then went down to the tram sheds on the western side and
tram sheds are good, aren't they?
So beautiful, and just so nice to be back to a place that you're familiar with friends, and there's nothing quite like the harbour when you're going for a run.
Yeah, no, 100%. And where's your next trip then?
Wow, what a great question. So gone and seen mum and dad first, which was one of the things that I knew I really wanted to do first up. But I can't wait to discover Indonesia. I think that's the hidden gem about being here from Jakarta. There is so many amazing places that you can travel within a couple of hours.
No, and that's right, and it's very very easy. Nihi Sumba, I spoke to Madeline from there recently, and that's very keen to go and have a look.
No, there's a list. I've got a long list, and what's so lovely here is every time I meet someone new, they add to that list. So many different places.
And are you seeing many international guests coming into the hotel yet, or is it still a little while away?
I think it's been incredibly exciting. The last 5 weeks particularly, we've seen a massive change. I think for the previous 2 years, about 95% of our total guests was a domestic market. Already, I think I saw last month it sort of moved to about 30% of our guests were international. And
not bad in Jakarta, given everything that's been going on.
Very good. And that we've seen a lot of the business coming in is looking at development and investment. So very good signs for not only the hotel, but for Indonesia as well.
Well, I'm also getting feedback that a lot of people want to come to Asia because there's a lot of chaos in Europe for various reasons. There is a war there. Brexit has happened. There's a lot of people traveling there at the moment, which means it's very hectic. Whereas here, you don't have a lot of those elements. And because we have been a little bit behind in the COVID journey, things have been a little bit slower. So you haven't been slammed with all the crowds and everything. So as I said, in Bali, it was so pleasant. It wasn't overcrowded.
No, and you're almost, and I think people that haven't traveled for a little while, I think what you get by coming to Asia or Southeast Asia is the people and the culture is so beautiful that you almost guaranteed of people really taking care of you and your family. So I think there's an element of reducing risk, because there's, like we were talking about, so many places you could travel to.
Yes. No, look, I'm really excited because I've got twins and they're coming up from Australia next week to be in Jakarta. So
okay, wonderful.
Thrilling. So exactly what you describe. They both love, Southeast Asia. So they're just bursting to come here and eat and have massages and just experience, the Asian hospitality. But so that's exciting. But I wanted to ask you before we go, Simon, where to from here for you for the rest of the day today?
Oh, for the rest of the day.
Oh, for whenever you like. Off whenever you like. Doesn't have to be.
No, actually, it's a nice day. My wife's, she works for Cushman Wakefield, and some of her colleagues have come in from Singapore today. So we're going to take them to a really local eatery. So that's tonight. But sitting with the team later on today, we do our weekly forecast meeting and planning meeting. So that's something that I always look forward to, particularly now that we're seeing the marked improvements from the previous year. Yeah.
It's a very, very exciting time for anyone in hospitality now. It hasn't been for a long time. The clouds have lifted and it's full steam ahead, right?
Absolutely. And, I think the nicest thing to see is the development opportunities for the team. It's been very stagnant for the last 2 years in regards to promotions and development and training for them. Yes. And so being able to focus on that, is you can see it's made a remarkable difference to the team. And we're all about trying to support hospitality in general rather than just specifically Four Seasons. So it's very promising signs for the industry.
Sounds fantastic. And look, I look forward to meeting you in person soon and to having a look at your glorious hotel properly.
I would be disappointed if you and the twins weren't, the first meal they had wasn't in Palm Court.
I'll see
it's
what
an open invitation, I promise.
All right. Thank you, Simon. That's very generous. I'll take you up on it.
Sounds great.
Lovely to meet you and see you soon.
Thanks, Renee. Very grateful.
Bye, Simon.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.